Hey everybody, I would like to welcome everybody who's watching to the very first Ashes of Creation community podcast. I am the BC Giant, and today's first guests are the Deaths, Proxy, and Truth Eternal. How about you guys say hi?
Hello.
Hey there.
So, I thought before we get started, I'd try to explain pretty much what this community podcast is going to be about. I personally done podcasts and stuff like that in the past for other games like Wildstar, Arcade, and Black Desert Online. And most of those podcasts, they were pretty much just about the game and information that the community received from the developers. But I thought for Ashes of Creation, we are gonna go and try something else. And the reason for that is that the transparency Intrepid showed us till this point, and all the information we're getting is so upfront that we don't need to make another podcast about all that sort of stuff. So I thought, why not do a podcast about the community itself, because the Ashes of Creation community is awesome, just plain and simple. So, and that's pretty much what we're going for. And I thought our very first podcast should be with people that are well known in the community. So I decided to kidnap Death Proxy and Truth Eternal, which are both very well known in the community for their content. And yeah, so that's pretty much what we're going for. You guys excited?
Yeah,
Super.
All right, let's get started because I'm like super hyped for this. Okay, so you both are. Let's start with the first topic. Both of you are content creators for Ashes, and so I want to know, like, why did you guys decide? What did you make you excited about Ashes of Creation? Because there are a lot of other games out there, and I played against your guild in Black Desert Online, so I know you've been around for a while. Same goes for Truth. So what made you excited about Ashes in particular?
Go ahead, Death. I'll let you take it.
Well, originally, I guess when I first heard about the game, I wasn't particularly too excited about it. I was looking around just for a new game to play, basically, for myself. And, at the time I was doing content for another game which hadn't turned out the way I wanted it to be, kind of, So, I started looking at different MMOs, and I kind of bumped into this one. Someone gave me a link, and I checked it out. And the feature seemed okay. It seemed pretty as standard as an MMO. But the more I started like researching and looking at the features of the game and talking to Steven, that's when I started to become like super hyped for the game. When I started doing the content on it and investigating all these systems and how the mechanics worked. That's what really got me excited for the game.
How about you, Truth?
Yeah. So the way I found out about it is kind of strange. So I was actually at a comic book shop, and I was talking to some people, and we got on the topic of MMOs, and someone mentioned this new one that's coming out in a little while, called Ashes of Creation. And right, who expects to hear about an MMO at a comic shop? I guess to this day I don't know who that is. So if you live in Dallas, Texas, and you go to comic shops and you told me about Ashes, I still need to thank you. But that's how I found out about it. Just went home, researched it. I was familiar with some of the other, the lineages of the world and the arc ages, but I've never seen something that quite put everything together in a way kind of like that, but that also wasn't pay to win in any way. So really, I think that non-pay to win aspect really just kind of sucked me in. I loved the fact that we're going to get all new lore, and it just kind of rolled on from there. Everything I found out was just another mark in the good column, and haven't looked back since.
All right. So yeah, I can relate to both of you, because for me personally, like, I've been around in the genre for, I think, for 12 years, and to be honest, I was pretty much done with MMOs. Like, the disappointment I went through in Arcade and some other games just, I don't know, like, pushed me over the edge. And then a buddy of mine actually told me about Ashes, and I started looking into it. And yeah, like, same goes for me, like the stuff you went through, Truth, like the whole not pay to win and the whole new lore thing, and just like what they're going for. Just, I don't know, it got me like so excited that I actually got involved with the community, and I'm really glad I did. So let's get to the second topic, which would be, because both of you are famous, like super famous. Oh yeah, you're famous. Like, don't even argue about that. You guys are famous. So both of you do really, really awesome content. Proxy, with your information videos and all that stuff, you cover everything there's about Ashes, and Truth, you're with your whole Ashes journal videos, which I really like. Everybody should watch them because your voice is like you're the Morgan Freeman of Ashes of Creation. I'm just gonna put it like that. Me personally, I try to do content in the past, and I do it in some degree. It's just for fun. But you do content on such a high quality level. Like, what made you decide to put all the effort into making content for this game?
You want to take this one first, Truth?
Yeah, sure. I mean, honestly, so on the side, I do some professional voiceover work, and so, you know, I'd already been familiar with Death's Proxy, and he had kind of been the one that had really given me my tutelage on the game up to this point. So I knew that I didn't, right? Nobody needed to do any kind of informational stuff, right? Death had that covered. So in my mind, it was, what does that leave? That either leaves some kind of niche stuff, maybe a podcast, which of course you've stepped up and are now doing, or just kind of some fun, you know, lore-y kind of things. And I just kind of found the niche. It fit with kind of one of my skill sets. So I went in and just started pumping those out. I do have to give a shout out as well to Melanani. She is the one who does the videos to accompany the voiceover. So, but anyway, that's how it kind of got started. Just kind of fell in place. I mean, not much else to it.
Proxy, what about you?
Well, you know, I guess what really spurred me on to make the content was, you know, I finished playing another, well, not playing another game, but following another game almost, and it didn't pan out. And, you know, I just started making content for this pretty much, just as, you know, something to buy this time. But, you know, as I got absorbed by Steven's enthusiasm for the game, I kind of got, you know, whirlwinded, you know, and just kind of got blown away with it. So the more I did the research, the more I found out about it, you know, the more I wanted to produce more content and more things for it, you know. And I started to see this game had a lot of potential, you know, with the people making it and Steven himself. So I figure the more content I pushed out, the more people would hear about the game, the more people that would get excited about the game, the more the chance this game has to be successful, you know?
Okay. So let me add something to this, because both of you, like I just said, your content is like really high quality, and like I don't think I'm gonna be the only one to agree with this, but I think a lot of people in the community got more excited about Ashes because of your content. Because I remember like watching like a buddy of mine, like I said earlier, told me about Ashes, so I went to YouTube, Google, and I was like, Ashes of Creation, and alright, Death Proxy, really well done information videos. Alright, I get excited, so I keep on Googling. And then I found Truth's videos. I'm like, oh, okay, here we go. Oh, this is getting good. And that was the point for me personally when I actually joined like the forums and all that sort of stuff. And which brings me to our third topic, which would be wait, I got a graphic for it. Why did you guys? I'm actually going to answer this question first from my side. Why did you guys get involved with the community already at this point when Ashes is still so far away? So for me personally is the reason for that, and I think both of you are going to agree with me on that part, is I've been part of a lot of communities in my age, a lot of guilds, a lot of pre-release communities, but I honestly have never seen a community like Ashes in a time frame that still gives us 2 years till release. The community is so friendly, so helpful, and it's already growing to a size where, you know, you do have a lot of new people on the Discord, and there are already so many guilds and everything, and just the overall activity and the atmosphere is so welcoming that I already feel like oh hell yeah, this is gonna be the game where I'm gonna spend the rest of my gaming days with. So what I think a lot of people want to know, especially I want to know, is why did you guys get involved with the community? Because Death, you're already a moderator for the community. So why did you guys get already involved with the community to this level when the game is still so far away?
I mean, for me, I was already pretty heavily involved. I mean, I was pretty much here at the start of the community, so it's not like so much I got involved. I was already here, kind of thing. You know, it kind of developed around me and Steven and the other guys that were here originally. You know, and it grew from that, I guess. So it wasn't so much that I got involved with it. It's just I was already here, kind of thing.
Okay. Then let me rephrase it then, just for you. Why did you stay? Like, what made you stay? What made you like? Because when I'm at work, I come in work, I turn on my computer, I get on the Discord, and I already see your name. You're either online or you're something, or you're answering somebody's questions. You're always there. So what made you like stay in the community? What made you like give the community like a lot of attention as a moderator and as a member?
I guess it's kind of like a more to do with curiosity. I want to kind of know how this is all going to end up, because when you see these games and you see people, playing games, and they think, I could do a better job than the developers. You see gamers, thinking that themselves. They think that they can make the game better than the developer. And here we have a situation where the developer is the gamer. He is the person that was developing the game. He was the one previously playing them. It's kind of interesting to see that, and I really want to know how this is all going to pan out to the end. Whether it's going to be a huge success or a failure, it's going to be interesting to see the answer. Either way,
Okay, so it's curiosity.
Yeah, I think that's feeling most of it.
How about you, Truth?
Yeah, so I guess for me, it was, well, first of all, you have to believe in some part of the product that's being put out there, right? So it really started with proving out that their systems, as they've been described very generally, make sense, that they work together. And I was so impressed with just the game itself that the next step was kind of, all right, now let's look at the developer. Let's see what kind of stuff's going on there. And I guess you just touched on it. I mean, Steven, coming from an MMO background of, 20 years, is really, really impressive. And then he gets us. He's one of us. That's awesome. But then also just the openness of Intrepid has been incredible. And, they at least make us feel like we're part of the process. I'm sure that Steven has his vision of the game, and I've certainly gained some comfort with his vision of it. But just knowing that they're just so open is awesome, and that really engages everybody in the process. And though we might not have 2 years of solid content coming to us, lots of information here and there, it's going to be fun to be part of that trickle and just to discuss it with, like you said, these great kind of community people that are around as it comes out, and kind of further craft on theories, further organize people, and just start prepping for what's going to be an awesome game.
I so agree on that part, because I don't think a lot of people know that. I think I mentioned it a couple times on Discord, but I personally work in the gaming industry. I cannot say for what gaming studio, because that would cause issues left and right. But the reason I really started taking interest, especially in Steven and Intrepid, is their level of transparency and their communication towards their community, which I rarely see in like ever. And that's like one of the things that also got me really excited. And I know a lot of people that I've been talking to in the forums, like, I don't know, like Tree, Rosie, and other people, they kind of agree on that part. And I think the truth and the fact that you can come onto the Discord and you can ask the guys, the people that make this game, you can ask them questions, and there are a lot of questions going to these people, and if you're lucky, you get an answer. Just gives a whole nother level of community bonding, which I think is just gonna grow and become even better as the game moves on towards its goals. So yeah, this is gonna be awesome. All right, so talking about things that will be awesome, let's get to the next one, because the next one is gonna be more game related. Is what are you guys looking for the most when it comes to Ashes? Like, what's the thing that you guys want out of this game? Like, what's the thing that I want this, because I know they mentioned it and I'm looking so forward to this. So who wants to go first?
We go first, Truth.
Yeah, sure, that's fine. So I guess, all right, so I come from my day job is in finance, so I really I really was more excited probably than most people about the final stretch goal of the Kickstarter. the stock exchange and all that. I think that's going to be incredibly fun to play. I'm also very into the community aspect, right? Steven always says, we're bringing back the massively multiplayer part of MMO. I really love the social organizations as well. So understanding what, what it means to build one of those up, what it means to invest in one. The same with religions, the same with guilds, and the same with, of course, with just, node membership. Just the way that those things interact, and then the way I'm sure they'll be different in the way that they develop, is just absolutely fascinating to me. And I can't wait to see how that story unfolds on each server.
So that means if my guild goes bankrupt, then you're the guy I have to talk to.
That's right, man. We'll restructure you. Yeah.
I can already see it come. I can see it come. I'm getting a fax, because I know like fax is kind of old school, but I would get a fax, or a new contract, guild refinance plan and everything. It's awesome. Like it's like the things I believe people would be able to pull off in this game are gonna be insane. So,
Agreed.
So Proxy, what about you?
I guess the thing I'm looking forward to most is the whole aspect of adding meaningful content to the game. I mean that's really what sells me on this particular game. For a long time, I've been looking for an MMO that basically emulated that feeling you get from EVE Online. EVE Online has like so many things in game that are meaningful. Everything like you literally do in that game, whether it's trading or PvP or the big conflicts or the faction warfare or the piracy, everything has a knock-on effect, and it's just great. It makes you feel part of that community, and there is a thing with like EVE is real, because it is so you're more in tune with yourself in the game than you are with the actual character in game, so you can really be yourself and actually have a lot of meaning and impact to all the actions of that game. And with a lot of MMOs that have been out the last few years, there's not really been anything like that. It's more like, why are you killing this person? Because it's fun, sort of thing. It's not really giving you anything in return content-wise. It's not, making you feel, why am I doing this? You don't really think why you're doing it. You're doing it because you're going to get X reward. It's not really there to have any purpose at all. And with this game, you can have, nodes to capture and the trading things between hubs and marketplaces, and the nodes growth and the communities forming and the guilds forming, and caravan PvP with, the reason, you're attacking the caravan to get the resources, and you're doing it to hinder guilds, and you're trying to do it to break your competition. And it just adds so much more to the game from that. So I guess that is definitely why I'm looking more forward to this game than anything else currently.
I think Proxy, you and me are on the same level when it comes to that thing, that sort of stuff, because I always played MMOs where you had large scale battles, like for example Guild Wars 2 or PlanetSide 2, where like those like the major games, and I always wanted a game, or Camelot Unchained would be another one. I always looked for a game that would offer the opportunity for people with a sorry, my bad, English second language, strategic mindset to actually go to work, because most of the times when I played any sort of game, it was more like let's make a Zerg and let's Zerg stuff down. So I think for players like me, this Ashes is gonna provide like a way to really prove like, hey, we can think in long-term strategies. We can give our guild leaders or commanders certain situations, and help them out with information gathering, that sort of stuff. So that was like the thing that I'm looking forward the most, being able to help my guild with like my strongest abilities, which are strategic. I hate that word in German. It's so much easier. Strategical thinking. Thank you very much. I can help my guild with that sort of stuff. So, and just having that opportunity compared to other games, for example, Guild Wars 2, where you just fight Zerg against Zerg, and not really think about, okay, what's gonna happen in an hour from now, what's gonna happen in 2 days from now, because there's also gonna be like a big part of politics in the game, and I think a lot of people don't really realize that yet. And I think for players like me, this is gonna be our new playground. We're gonna really like just enjoy ourselves. And yeah, I know that grind might show up, so I need to be prepared for that. So I'm already making plans.
I don't know if it will or not, to be honest.
And for those people who don't know, Proxy used to be the raid leader for one of the top guilds in Black Desert Online, and I hated them on the Russian servers because they kicked my ass all the time. Okay, next topic. Where's my graphic? Here's my graphic. Next one would be... Wait, let me see. Alright, if you could create one thing in Ashes of Creation, what would it be and why? Who wants to go first?
Go for it, Death.
Create one thing, slimes, you know?
Slimes?
Yeah, why not? Because, you know, like in a lot of games, slimes get really, you know, they're always the monster, they're always the mob, they're always like usually a weak one too.
Okay,
You know, like level 1 thing that you just hit with a spell and it dies.
Are we talking about like slimes, like really like badass slimes, or we're talking about something, you know?
It's like a slime race, you know?
Okay.
You put just the whole slime race thing going on. Why not? Because, you know, I feel like they have a bad rap, you know?
You're never going to come off it, are you?
They need to be represented, bro. Someone needs to, you know, talk for the slimes.
Right, no taxation without representation.
Right, but on a more serious note, and something I would really like to see or create for Ashes of Creation, I guess. I think just more meaningful content. There's one thing I really liked from Arcade, and that was the illegal tree farms. I like that whole open world PvP and conflict. It doesn't have to be an illegal tree farm, just open world PvP objectives. There is the caravan system, but I just like more. I think the more open world PvP objectives there are in the game, the more reason people would go out into the world and PvP, rather than, you know, surrounding towns and just, you know, a queue for the arena or queue for the battleground. I think that's a terrible design when people are forced to just sit in the town and queue all day for PvP when they could be out searching for it or looking for it, and then that creates those unusual stories of conflicts that you'll always remember. Because every single PvP fight I had at an illegal tree farm in Arcade, or every sort of stealth bomber fight I had in EVE Online, I remember those. They are literally ingrained into my brain how good those were. But when I think back of all the battlegrounds I spammed and queued for, it's a blur, you know?
Yeah, gotcha. I remember those farms. Those were some like really good battles. I think for me, like the thing that I would like to have in Ashes, it would have to do something with raids, because I used to be one of those hardcore World of Warcraft PvP raiders. You know, like new raid content comes out, I'm taking seven days off, I'm calling in sick, that sort of thing. But so that's just to get the server first. So what I would like to have is as soon as, for example, a guild or raid group clears a boss for the first time, something happens, some event, something that influences the entire server. And those names of those few people, 40 people, 20 people, I don't know how big the raid groups are going to be, are always like written in the history of the server. Because most of the times for other games, if you clear out a boss for the first time, worldwide, server-wide, all you get is maybe an achievement. So for example, if I don't know, you kill an epic stone mountain golem boss, and then that you don't kill him, you get him really close to being dead, and then he goes rampage, and he goes through I don't know, the forest on the bottom of the mountain, then he dies, and then for the remaining time of that server, that golem, the remainders of that golem lie at the bottom of the mountain, and the 20 to 40 names of the people who killed them are etched in his body, and you can actually go up and read the names. You know, like, kill a boss first time, and you are pretty much a legend for the rest of the server life. I think that's something I would really enjoy, because that would be, you know, you get, okay, you progress-oriented PvE players that do raiding, you know, they want to get that server first, but, you know, to have, like, your name, like, in stone or something for the remainder of the game, for that server, that I think that's another, like, thing people could drive for. And yeah, I think that's something I would enjoy to have in the game. What about you, Truth?
Yeah, I mean, I think Death took my number one, which is just more and more meaningful content. I mean, just like drown me in content, and I will be so happy. You know, I'm super happy to hear that kind of their release schedule is some minor updates pretty frequently, and then kind of really big quarterly patches. You know, that's that's pretty aggressive, I think, in my mind. And I love the fact that we're just going to be swimming and stuff to do. I don't think we'll ever be bored. You actually took my second one, Giant. The more rating, absolutely. That's I definitely come from more of a PvE background in games, so I completely agree with that point. And then my I guess my third thing is more social orgs. Surprise. So you know, maybe we only have 3 right now, right? We have a what is it, a thieves guild, we have a trading company, and we have a scholars academy. And that's kind of a strange number, I think, 3. So I'm hoping that down the line we get 3 more that enter the fray, that start developing and that are very appealing to people, and just to create even more of that kind of meaningful conflict that I think everybody's looking forward to.
Now that you mentioned that, the other day I kind of thought about that whole situation, and you remember how during the Kickstarter they had the whole naval thing as a stretch goal. So I cannot say for sure, but I can imagine that in the future there gonna be I don't know, there's gonna be another one like towards, you know, like, I don't know, ships and ocean travel. I don't know, navigator guild, something like that. I think that could be an option, and depending on where the game goes, let's say they expand the world into a certain degree. And I know right now flying is like limited only to a few people on the server. Maybe at some point in the future, I know after release, maybe 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, we don't know, like I cannot tell. But maybe they also go in the area of you know, like magical. I don't know. Have you guys ever watched Escaflowne, the anime? Back in the day,
with the like the sci-fi sort of thing, but in the medieval
yeah, exactly,
period, like the mechs.
Exactly.
Yeah,
they had these flying ships, flying airships, but they were pretty much the only reason they were able to fly was because they had like flying stones inside them, or like they were built around these flying stones. So I think, I don't know, there could be some sort of, you know, what's it called in English again? Let me think. Aviator guild in the future. I don't know. Like, honestly, that's a problem I'm having with Ashes at the moment. Is there are too many options and too many things they can pull off, and that irritates me in a positive way. Because
you can certainly go wild theory crafting. That's true. You'll kill yourself doing it.
All right, what was it? Create one thing, Ashes of Creation. Okay, let's go to the next one, which would be... there's currently a lot of hype about Ashes, so what I'm worried about, and I'm actually going to start us off with that one, is do you think you're going to stay hyped as much as you are now in the future? Because for me personally, I'm hyped as hell about this game. Like, I'm waking up in the morning, I'm like, oh, Ashes 2 years away, I hate my life. And I even made like, I don't do a lot of YouTube content, like I do rarely any YouTube content, and I actually, with help of Truth, I made 2 videos about pretty much me being hyped for this game. But recently I took a step back, because I got worried that if I would stay on the same level of hypedness, let's call it hypedness, I don't even know if that's a word, I would get burned out and, you know, lose all the interest and not follow Ashes anymore. So what I want to know, because both of you are well known and both of you are content creators and both of you are awesome, do you think you're gonna stay as interested as you are now within the next 2 years? Are you gonna stay on the same level, or are you gonna take a step back? You know, maybe completely ignore Ashes for a while and then come back in a couple months? Like, what do you guys think?
Well, I think there's a couple things there. I think generally, as far as the community goes, we're going to see the biggest lull in kind of activity and hype going to be kind of right now, to be honest. It's going to be between the end of the kind of summer store stuff going on and the, you know, the first alpha that comes out. That's going to be the big lull. But I think they've spaced out the alphas and betas enough that it'll be pretty sustained after that, and it'll just kind of grow, right? We're looking at kind of a U curve going on there. So that's that. But you know, personally, I think Intrepid did something pretty smart with the timing of their Kickstarter being so far out, and it's that they gave us just enough to really whet our appetites and get us to pledge a lot of money to them, right? And so now it's like regardless of anything else, I know that I'm in based on my pledge for quite a deal, and so I'm going to be following this like a hawk, and there's no way I'm backing down, and I'm going to keep going, and that Journal of Ashes is going to keep going for a very long time until we actually have a game to play, and then I'm sure everybody will be keen on kind of, you know, working on their own stories.
What about you, Proxy?
Yeah, I have to agree with Truth. I mean, there is going to be pretty much a dip of the level of hype, you know, in the next few months, most likely, you know, with no huge amounts of announcements or information coming out. It's going to be, you know, less streams and, you know, smaller of information or smaller chunks of information. Maybe the odd developer blog, maybe the odd video drop, you know, but not huge amounts of information. But as soon as I think the alphas roll around, because they are persistent, I think the alphas themselves will probably maintain a healthy amount of hype all the way up to launch, you know? The fact that we'll be able to test and play the game, or quite a few of us, and, you know, produce content and you know, things like that eventually through when the NDA is lifted, you know? Will be enough to sustain the hype all the way up to launch, pretty much. But, you know, as I'm playing these sort of games, obviously there's going to be games that come along that take my own attention, you know, now and again, because first and foremost, I am a gamer, not just, you know, an MMO gamer. I am a, you know, pretty broad spectrum of gamer, so there's always going to be things that are going to grasp and take away my attention now and again.
What I'm worried about, and just because I have to deal with it on a daily basis because of like the job I do, and also because of the experience I had with past games, is I don't know. I cannot say if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just like, you know, in the back of my head, because I try to be supportive. I try to, you know, support Intrepid and everything they do, and I want this game to succeed because, you know, I want to play this game as soon as possible. But I feel like because they made such big statements as not pay to win and before 2020, and I just hope that everything goes their way they're planning it, and I'm really positive it will. And so I'm really like, I'm praying to the god of video games that, you know, everything goes away, because as soon as I think something doesn't go the way it was planned, I know if they maybe have to push the release for, I don't know, a couple months, that could hurt in either a small way or a big way. So that's like something I'm always like worried about, and that's what that's pretty much why I decided to, you know, put a lot of effort in the community. Like, I'm doing this podcast. I said I'm gonna do the guild fair yesterday, and I probably will be doing a lot of things in the future. I would like to do a lot of things in the future. Depends on if they want to have me, but I think if they really do if they keep going the way they're going now, because alone the Kickstarter success they had, it just shows me that people are behind this in a level that I haven't seen before, and I think there will be a dip in hypedness, but I don't think it's gonna be such a major issue in any way, because, you know, people are looking forward to this game and the community is strong. So I'm really hoping everything goes their way, and if not, I think the community is gonna support them either way. Well, yeah, I think so, yeah. And if not, you know, like, we can always, you know, sell a couple sandals, make a little bit more money, send it to Intrepid. That should work.
There you go.
Oh, you know, hey, oh, by the way, like, it's summer where I am, so I'm wearing sandals all day, and I think, Proxy, I know you're just like a couple hours away from me. I think you're in the same situation as I am.
Yeah, it's pretty
Yeah,
hot.
it's burning. All right, let's see. Number 7. Okay, so there are a lot of positive things about Ashes of Creation, and we are all gamers, and we all have our preferences. We all prefer other games and other game types and gameplay things, and, you know, looks of characters or spells or whatever. But what is and I don't want to hear the answer. I don't want pay to win or anything, you know. I want to hear a dead honest answer. Like, what is the one thing that you don't want in the game, like something you really do not want in the game, or otherwise you would not play the game?
I'm definitely going to say daily quests. I can't stand. I find them such a a horrible time gating mechanic that a lot of developers shove into games as easy content, easy repeatable content, you know, that makes you feel you have to log in and every day and do them. I mean, if they are completely optional and they don't really reward you that well, fine, stick them in. But the fact that you have these daily quests that you almost 100% have to do every day or you fall behind competitively are just such a chore. It honestly make me feel sick to my stomach. So yeah, I definitely don't want to see like an overload of daily quests all in my face that I have to spend, you know, 2, 3, 4, 5 hours every day doing.
Okay, but let me ask you that, because earlier you said you want content. What about daily quests you have to do for a certain period of time to gain, you know, to gain favors with a certain, I don't know, race or frac, or I don't know, like to gain something, and as soon as you gain that, you don't have to do them ever again.
No, God, no. I mean, I just hate daily quests in general. Like, EVE Online did not need daily quests in any sense or regard. You know, you log into that game, you do whatever you want to do money. You're not gated by a mechanic telling you need to go chop trees for 20 minutes just because to complete your daily, you know? You literally go in the game and you do what you want. You know, you don't have to... I don't like the fact something is forcing you to take away what you want to do in game, even if it's 10, 20, 50 minutes.
Okay, what about you, Truth?
Yeah, so grindiness is a good one, but I think for me, and I always like to try to use WoW as an example as much as possible, just because it's the most far-reaching. I think the most people at least have some exposure to it. But I hope that Intrepid keeps the skill level and the reward kind of level matched and doesn't kind of allow that to slack over time. So people will remember very early on in WoW, for instance, there was like weapon proficiencies. Yes. So if you were max level and you'd never trained up your pole arm, you had to go out there and you had to swing and miss some boars for a while, right? And kind of over the course of the game, right? That's not even there anymore, right? It's become so much easier. And maybe that's too grindy of an example, but I think you get the idea, right? I hope that they don't cave to people's desires to have everything and to have the best things, right? And they truly make the unique stuff, and they keep it that way, right? Legendaries should be legendaries.
Okay, so wait. But I think I didn't hear that right. Did you just say you want that weapon proficiency, something like that? You don't want that, okay?
No. That was just an example from WoW, how they moved from something that was much more, you know, it was you had to do that to be rewarded, and now you don't at all, right?
Well, for me personally, like I wouldn't mind something that, you know, I have to grind for a little bit, but then it's done and I never have to do it again. I don't mind that. For example, if I would have to, you know, train to be a master in a certain weapon, you know, that's something I wouldn't have a problem with. But endless grind, like you, for example, you have in Black Desert Online, I know that's just something I never like. I don't know. When I played it, I didn't mind, but back then I had a lot more free time because I was still going to school and everything. But that's something I really can't live without. For me personally, the thing that I don't want in the game is already going to be in the game. So, which is the way they're setting up the arena PvP system. I'm a big fan of structured PvP, and by that I mean, you know, you and another player go into an arena, and both of you, you know, you're at the same level, you got access to the same gear and everything. That's the only difference the only difference that makes the winner or the loser is your skill. But from the way I guess Steven explained it in one of the streams, your PvP gear and like it's only gonna be one set of gear. I get that, but you're gonna take that gear into the arena, and then that's gonna be it. So that's not gonna be a separate PvP like gear, which I get. But then I get the issue if I'm not in the here's the thing, like we don't know the levels of gear and the way it's gonna really work and how fast you can get the best gear in the game. But the issue I'm just having, it's not an issue. I think it's just like one of my preferences is if you like to go PvP, you like to play PvP, but you don't have a lot of free time to get the best gear in the game, because let's face it, some people, they like MMORPGs, but they don't have the time other people do. But they like their arena PvP, and they go into an arena, and you know they're actually pretty skilled, but they're losing against somebody who's not as skilled as them as them, and the only reason is that the other person has the better gear. That's like something that where I have an issue. But for example, like I would have to wait and see how it really ends, because
yeah. Well, I think to that point though as well. I mean, so there's no PvP and PvE gear, right? Your gear is your gear, and that's it. So I think that's a great step. But oh man, I just lost my train of thought.
Like the thing I want to say is, if you take anything into like a structured PvP environment, which is mostly like ESL, you know, like I don't know, like Guild Wars 2 tournaments, World of Warcraft PvP tournaments, those are set up differently than anything like you would have in the open world in Guild Wars 2 or in World of Warcraft. So I think, I don't know, Ashes, we have to wait and see how the gameplay is. We have to wait, but I don't know, there might be some potential to take Ashes PvP into, you know, like ESL. So if that would ever be the case, they would have to adjust the whole PvP system, because there are people that play MMOs just for the PvP, not the open world PvP, just the arena PvP. So that's like something they would have to decide in the future, but we have to wait and see. Sure.
And I remembered my point, sorry, from earlier. It's that Intrepid also in the PvP realm has said that it's going to be about teamwork, right? A lot. So, you know, positioning, strategy, all that stuff in combat is going to play in probably way more heavily than it has in a lot of the other MMOs we've seen. So, I think that also kind of mitigates the impact of not having quite the best gear in PvP. If you can work well as a team and really have that kind of stuff down, I think you'll also have some success.
Yeah, you do. But you know, there's always like the difference between teams that practice together and, you know, teams that just want to do PvP for fun. Because I know a lot of people, a lot of my friends, a lot of my fellow gamers that I play with on a daily basis, they do mostly just PvP in MMOs because they want to do PvP. They don't want to go raiding, they don't want to go questing, they just want to do the PvP because they like that type of gameplay. And I talked to them a lot, and they said, for example, the changes World of Warcraft did with their arena system, they loved that. And they are also big fans of the Guild Wars 2 PvP lounge, which Steven, I guess, doesn't really like, which, I don't know, I guess it's my own personal opinion, but I think would fit well within Ashes, depending on how everything turns out. So yeah, but we have to wait and see. Like, it's not like a no-go for me or a deal breaker, but just like something I could like live with having in the game.
See, I have to disagree with you on that. I mean, I don't really particularly like the whole balanced aspect of PvP, because I find it takes away from the whole RPG aspect, you know, with the stats and the numbers. Because once you start giving everyone like equalized gear or balanced out gear, you kind of take away the sort of the feeling of building like an overpowered build, or even the feeling of making an unusual or even a great counter build. You know, you're taking away a good chunk of the meta. Like, and that's why I kind of like, you know, MOBAs like League of Legends have, despite, you know, a lot of gear in there, it's not particularly balanced in any way. You can get some really overpowered builds and setups from that gear. I mean, it gives you that customization option.
Yeah.
So, you know, I don't like equalized gear at all. I think, you know, it should be something that you can invest your time into to making a really cool kick-ass build.
Yeah, no, I get that. I'm agreeing with you on that part. I'm just saying, you know, there are people, including me, that like just the PvP aspect. Like they just want to go PvP. They just want to play, you know, 5 against 5, 20 against 20. They don't really want to spend time and questing and that sort of stuff. And I know in MMORPGs you don't really have, you know, you have to do the one thing to do the other. But from what I've been seeing lately in the last couple of years, more and more games, more and more MMOs, you know, they pop up and they already have like a sort of just ranked, structured arena PvP system and an open world PvP system. So, like I said, opinions are different. Everybody can, like, you know, there are the good things and the bad things, and we have to wait and see. Like, maybe even the gear that you get and the gear you can achieve and farm isn't really that big of an issue, and you can get it pretty easily. So that it would not make as much as a difference in arena that I imagine it would. Yeah. So yeah.
I'm personally not a big fan of arenas. I think they take away from the whole open world aspect, the whole feeling of being in a living, breathing world. When you look at games like, you know, EVE Online and Darkfall, for example, it was a good example. Ultima Online, you know, there wasn't arenas or gladiatorial pits or battlegrounds as such. I mean, there was the odd event, but in Ultima Online, but generally you were forced to go and go out into the world and explore and find the PvP, you know, and that would create stories and memories, and you know, you're taking away that whole aspect by just having this system where you just click a button and you start spamming spells at people. You know, it's not really, you know, becoming a thing. You know, it's not becoming a story. It's not becoming something you can talk about in like 10 years that was absolutely hilarious.
Yeah,
you
no,
know?
I get you. I get you. Yeah, I get you. I think the difference between me and you is, you know, I try to separate, and you're trying to keep both together, which, yeah, I guess it's just like different opinions. Like there's no real wrong and right, I would say.
So I'm going to take your job for a minute, Giant, and ask this question,
Okay.
I guess, to Death, specifically about this arena PvP stuff. So is it an acceptable explanation for you? Because we know about military node governance being PvP oriented. If these arenas were to be kind of essentially set up in the story as these places where you have to prove yourself and climb them to get an invitation then to the big dance, where you then fight for actual control of the node.
If you're PvPing to get control of the node, if you're PvPing to get a mate, then it has meaning, it has a purpose. But when you're doing it to get like arena points or just to get a ranking, it doesn't really have any real bearing, you know? So it's kind of like, I like to see content in my MMOs or games that you're actually doing something to achieve an actual result, you know?
Yeah, I get your point. Like, I'm not disagreeing. I think I got my preferences and you got yours. So I think, yeah, but I get what you're saying and I agree. But I guess we really just have to wait and see. But I'm actually running out of topics. That was actually the last topic. So I did not plan for this, but I'm doing it now anyways because I can. So I'm asking the chat to ask some questions, and I already have two. But the one I won't ask because I know that one question is the death of everything. So I'm asking the other one. Moose is asking to Proxy, couldn't you achieve the same effect you have with PvP talents with a what? Okay, Death Proxy, couldn't you achieve the same effect if you have a PvP talent tree or some sort of that?
Yeah, like I guess if with a PvP talent tree, you're kind of like taking away from building your character as a whole, you know? Sometimes the player wants to play the same character with the same skill sets, with the same gear in PvP and PvE. So when you take away, when you divide or split that aspect, then you're basically doing what Guild Wars 2 has done, where you have like this whole PvP section, and then you have the PvE section, and then you have the World v World section. It's all split down into chunks rather than one inclusive giant world.
Yeah,
you know?
but now I have to ask a question because we know, maybe just like we can guess how many skills there will be from what we saw, and don't you think there is a big chance that you will have to adjust your skills depending on like what you're going for? Like if you're going into a raid, you would have to set up your skill bar in a different way than you would go into a siege.
Yeah, I mean, there is that chance. I mean, but that would be mostly to do with your secondary class, I believe. You know, and that's also depends on the meta. But then again, generally, if a meta is really that strong, it's probably the class and setup and build you're probably going to use for everything, because you can pretend there isn't going to be a meta, but we already know there always is going to be a meta.
No, there won't be. There won't be.
There's always going to be a meta.
I don't believe that.
I'm sorry to say, even if the developers say there isn't, players will be elitist and say, you can't join this raid unless you have this, this, and this skill. Let's be honest here.
I really hope this is not going to be the case. Okay.
People will find a way, right? I mean, and it'll also depend too on, I just think I saw a question in the chat earlier too about opinions on damage meters, which maybe the one is you didn't want to ask. I don't know.
One. Okay.
That's fine.
We can talk about it. We can talk about it, and honestly, it's.
Yeah, I mean, I won't speak specifically to it, but you know, so much of the meta, you're right. There is always going to be a meta, and there's always going to be people who want a meta game. But what Ashes can control is what level of information is given about what's actually going on with the numbers, and that's, I think, kind of how they're trying to manage that. That's all I'll say.
Here's the thing. And it goes kind of towards what Proxy said about the meta, and it goes kind of with the damage meter topic. There will always be people that that will try and will find ways to optimize the best way to play a class, the best rotation, or the best benchmark meta setup for raids possible. And for example, Guild Wars 2 still doesn't allow any like third-party add-ons or plugins or anything that touches anything of the game information or the game data, anything that messes with anything that has to do with the game. But they say, and there's nothing really they can stop them from allowing people to do that. There are methods that can read the information the game provides and give you feedback. So I believe even people say there won't be any sort of damage meters. I think like top rating guilds, they will have somebody write some sort of add-on or some sort of program to read out damage numbers just so they can optimize and optimize and optimize. And I think as soon as that happens, you will have meta builds and meta setups for PvP, PvE, and maybe even for sieges. Like, for example, the death bubbles out of Guild Wars 2. So that's, I think, something. I know they're saying they don't want that, but I don't think there's any way around that, to be honest. What are your opinions on that?
Well, in terms of PvE, meta-wise, I think it is kind of controllable if you can change the way the bosses and the world bosses act. I mean, if you could create a system where you couldn't prepare for that fight in any sense, if you were to do it so if you went to a raid instance or a dungeon, you didn't know what you were going to go up against, then you wouldn't be able to prepare what was optimal for damage, you wouldn't know. So there's kind of like, if they did it like that, then would it be possible to actually, make it so the meta would have to switch and evolve quite often for most encounters? PvP-wise, almost impossible to control. There's always going to be a meta for PvP, no matter what you do, because there's always going to be something what's better. Even if they balance out all the damage skills, there's going to be classes that are faster or move quicker or can dodge skills. There's always going to be that thing that gives another class an edge.
What do you think, Truth?
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100% with Death. Yeah, 100%. And we have to remember too, nothing is ever really truly balanced because because classes are different and they have different things that physically occur as you're fighting. So yeah, no, all I can do is echo Death. I totally agree.
Okay, but let me ask you this because you're going in that whole financial sector. Do you think it will be the same when it comes to crafting and that sort of stuff?
Will there be a meta for crafting? Yeah. I honestly, I don't think we even know a fraction of what we need to know to be able to talk about metas and crafting.
Well, would you prefer?
I mean,
would you prefer there to be a meta so you can I don't know, optimize the way your guild is making gold, or would you rather have it open to however everybody wants to do it?
I hope that it's so extensive and there's so many different paths and options and specializations that it's almost not even a thing to have a meta. I mean, sure, one would probably evolve over time when all the possible information is gathered and put together and crunched. But I really just hope it's so big that nobody really even cares.
I mean, it could be a meta for crafting, but because of the way the nodes work and the whole how the environment shifts and changes and the resources disappear and become and things like that, and the season changes, I think the meta will change quite often. It'll be hard to lock down, and the meta will not only be changing all the time due to the nodes falling, rising, being rebuilt, trades and resources disappearing for a while, and seasons basically losing resources for a long time, or a raid boss spawning, and with that eternal winter thing could basically drastically change the way some crops might be going demand. They might skyrocket just because of that. So you can't really always plan out in this game, it seems, what would be the best to sell or buy or craft. And because of that, it's going to be much harder to find out or figure out a meta. And then because every server is different as well, the meta between servers is going to be completely different as well all the time.
I need to play this game. I need to see it for myself. I need to test things. Like this is annoying the hell out of me that I don't have all the information. Because right now, every time I am about to start a new game, like I get all the information and I make plans. I have a pretty well known PvP Zerg guide online that a lot of guilds kind of used for Guild Wars 2, Black Desert Online, and a lot of like I talked to a lot of guilds. Yesterday I talked to a lot of guilds, but privately I talked also to a lot of guilds that actually got interested in, you know, me joining their guilds, and we started talking about Zerging and all that stuff, and I'm telling everybody there is so much we don't know that I cannot give you like an optimized plan how to start the game, because another thing is we can decide where we're gonna start, and I think that's like one of the major reasons, because if one area gets faster developed as another one, the whole power meta activity dynamic of the server shifts compared to other servers. So that's like the thing that really I think sells Ashes to me the most, is just we cannot predict anything as of now. It's a good
Yes. Very appealing.
Yeah,
Yep.
so that's pretty much all the topics I have, like I said earlier. So right now, if anybody on the stream, anybody in chat has any questions for Truth, for myself, for Proxy, concerning their content, any, like if you guys want to hear our opinions on something, feel free to ask us. And I think we have a couple more minutes, and we can answer any questions you have. If it's regarding ourselves, it's regarding our opinions towards Ashes, like anything. And yes, all three of us, we are owning sandals, and during the summertime, I bet we are wearing them.
I don't know. I tend to let the professionals wear the sandals.
Oh.
I can't say I actually wear sandals myself.
Yeah, honestly?
Oh my god.
I find them quite uncomfortable. I'd rather just either go in socks, barefoot, or wear shoes, you know?
So I'm the only one that is wearing sandals.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Damn it. Death.
That's all right. You're part of the Church of Sandal, right?
Church of Sandal. Okay, Nagash is asking, Death, would you be a lich with me?
Is that an innuendo?
I think so.
Possibly, who knows? I don't know. I mean, would the lich be even a viable thing in this game? Who knows? I mean, Stephen did say there was going to be, when someone asked him if there's going to be vampires and werewolves, he said there was going to be unusual forms and things like that. So maybe we could use a monster token or something like that to become a lich.
When I hear lich, I think of little bright blue, like glowy balls that fly around.
I think of like the undead mage, you know.
Well, right. If I hear lich, the first thing I think is the Lich King from World of Warcraft, but that doesn't really fit. So I guess we don't have any questions. So I want to thank both of you for actually joining me on the very first community podcast. I hope you guys had fun. I definitely had.
Yeah, always good to be on. Thank you for putting this on, and I'm excited to listen in on the next podcast.
Oh wait, we do have a question. What are our opinions on the monster coin? This is going to be the last question, and you know it's a good question, so you know I think we should answer it. What are your opinions on the monster coin system?
Well, that could be a 2-hour conversation.
All right, you got 30. I give you 30 seconds to you know what? Let's just go.
30 seconds. I don't know if I can do 30 seconds, but like with the monster token system, I find it to be currently meaningless fluff added into the game, with the way they've described it, at least. You know, where you just buy a coin from the shop, or you get it from the drop and you just click it and turn into a monster. I mean, there's no reason for actually turning into the monster, just like almost like a plot filler sort of thing, you know, kind of not really thought out kind of thing from what they've described it as. And I think to myself, it's a good idea, like the players could actually become the monster or play as the monster, but I think there's better ways they could achieve actually doing it. And there's also the question of balance. When you actually use the coin, there's no guarantee you're going to get the costume, because if someone kills you during the event, they're going to get the costume. And then there's also that's kind of like an RNG box. You're buying something from the cash shop, and there's no guarantee you'll get the actual costume from it. That sounds kind of like an RNG box to a lesser extent, you know? And then on top of this, you have this element where what happens if people start buying these coins off the cash shop, and then letting themselves being killed on purpose so they can give their friends costumes, and those friends like slip them like $10, you know, on a PayPal, for example.
Here's the thing, because I thought about this as well. I think there should be several systems in place, or several like not systems, like limits the way it's supposed to go down. First off, you should be able to queue for monster events, yeah, but you don't know. You can queue. That's the first thing, and the second thing is you do not have any control over where on the server which monster, depending on the coin you use, which monster you're gonna be a part of. Which like there you cannot say in advance like where are you going to be when you use the monster coin. Like that's the thing, because that way you can like not like predict like, hey guys, I'm gonna be a monster in 5 minutes. Go there, kill me, you get the thing. And also there should be other limits to abuse the system. But I think they're gonna test that. I think they're not as dumb to let something like this really like break.
But I mean, they said they were quite happy with the way they designed it, which I thought was an unusual response. I mean, they said they were quite happy with their system, and I just don't see it being as meaningful as it could be. I mean, if I was to do it myself, if I was to design the system myself, I would have made it. I would put definitely the emphasis of meaning on it, and I wouldn't attach it directly to the character just switching into the monster. You know, I would have maybe if the character went to bed and he in the bed was a queuing system, like he was going to give you a nightmare for whatever reason, and you in your dreams you were the monster, but you actually, you know, as a player, you'd be playing the monster in a dungeon. You know, if someone like if a group of party entered a dungeon, you could also queue up for that dungeon using this system, and you would be the raid boss or the end boss of that dungeon. And that would make more sense because you know how many people are going to be in the dungeon, so you can, and you know there's going to be one boss which is going to be player controlled. You can balance that fight to be more fair. But in an open world environment, you can't really balance it. I mean, if you turn into a monster in the open world, there's no, what if 50 people turn up, but you can't really control the balance at all, can you? As far as I'm aware.
That's you get a point there, but like it's really hard to think about it without seeing it, because for example, if you use a monster coin and you become a huge dragon and you can wipe out an entire zone that has low level nodes, that's just like another thing. Like we would have to go and test that.
But they can't. I know for a fact they can't destroy nodes. That's already been stated. That the only way nodes can be de-leveled now, currently in the current game, is via sieges. That's the only way they'll de-level currently. Usually with the successful attack by the monsters on a town or a world boss attacking a town, it will just cause damage to the node. It will just disable some features or special buildings temporarily.
Okay, Truth, you've been quiet. What's your opinion?
Yeah, no, I mean, I guess I'll. the only other aspect I guess that we haven't really covered is that it's well, maybe we have a little bit, but it's slightly immersion breaking, right? I mean, everything has been going into having this kind of real feel to the game, and you build your character one way and it functions in all these different other aspects in according to the way you built this one person, and then suddenly you can jump into another thing's body. I mean, it's a little immersion breaking. I get it. It's kind of fun. It's a neat little thing to have in there, but doesn't really fit for me into the grand scheme of the game.
I feel exactly the same way. It's just so unusual that you just click a coin and become a monster. I just don't like the whole setup. I mean, if you were to become a monster, I like the way, like, for example, Elder Scrolls does it. You know, if you want to become a vampire, you go down the quest line to become a vampire. It feels like there's a reason why you became a vampire. It explains like a part of your character's reason for becoming one. You know, like. But just clicking a coin and becoming a monster, depending on what the coin is, it kind of feels like, I don't know, some cheesy sort of Power Ranger sort of power.
Okay, so, but what if they would adjust the system so that the monster coins can only be used during certain events? Like, I don't know, like a Halloween event, Christmas event, spring event, like stuff like that, you know, during a certain event period to celebrate something. I don't know, like with that, and that would take... I think a break that would put a break on the whole, breaking the immersion thing, and it still would be kind of fun because like I don't know, I always wanted to be a monster in an MMO. I always that's one of the things I'm like, hey, why can I not be that freaking golem who just wiped out my entire group?
Like the games has done it better. I mean, if you look at Lord of the Rings, you can literally queue up into a monster PvP thing. Like you become the monster because you like queued up for it, but it's not your character that's going it. You're going into it through a separate system. So it's not your character that's suddenly turning into a monster for no reason. You're actually queuing through a system and becoming a monster on a separate sort of system altogether, you know? So it's not linked at all, it's not immersion breaking, you are just playing as the monster for a while on a different character kind of thing.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, yeah. Like, I'm looking at it from you know, like, from your point of view, where it's you know, it makes sense, it breaks the immersion, like, there's no doubt about that. And then I'm looking at it from the point of view, hey, yeah, Intrepid, you know, like, it's another thing. Like, I want to give a good answer. I know I want to, you know, put another, you know, light on the whole topic, but without you having it played, like, without having any play experience and the way it goes down, because I can, like, you mentioned earlier, you know, like, hey, I'm a monster, let my buddies kill me. That's just, you know, that's just a waste of, you know, a system, in my opinion. So if they fix that, or if there's a way to prevent that, then I'm fine with it, because, you know, it might be fun to be a monster, but I don't have to be a monster 24/7.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's it for today. Like I just said, guys, thanks for joining me on our very first podcast. It was really nice having you guys. Thanks for all the awesome answers you guys gave us, me and the chat. And yeah, so I want to thank everybody for watching, for tuning in, listening to us. Right now, we don't really have a schedule for the next podcast. We're aiming to do a community podcast every 2 weeks. And that gives us time and the community time, you know, to come up with new questions, you know, send them in, and for us to look at it and, you know, set up a new podcast and to find new members. Because the way it goes is, I will probably host most of the podcasts, and there might be some other people that will be hosting the podcast, but we will always have different community members from the Ashes of Creation community in the podcast. So, you know, everybody gets a chance to be in the spotlight, and that's pretty much what this podcast is going to be about, you know, to shine a light on whoever is in the community, because there are a lot of awesome, creative, and talented people in the community, and it's our goal to put them into the spotlight. So thanks again for watching, and we will be talking to you guys soon on the Discord, I'm pretty sure, and I wish you all the best and have a good weekend. Bye, guys.